There's a trend right now on the internet, and I am so here for it. And it is the niche is you. You'll see videos with this title. I see creators talking about it. And again, I am so here for it. I actually see this entire trend being an iteration of the build in public trend. And I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and I realized that these are both two sides of the same coin. And this entire trend has evolutionary perspective. It has to do with tribe, authenticity, and reputation as a whole. For 99% of human history, I know, guys, there was a lot of time before we were here on this earth, humans lived in these small hunter-gatherer communities. And these small communities had maybe 50 or 150 people in them. And in that environment, your survival when it came to getting through life really had a couple different pillars to it. One of the pillars was high cost authenticity versus what I'm going to call low cost deception. In a small tribe, you can't fake your niche. If you claim to be a great hunter, the tribe would see whether or not you could bring back meat. If you claim to be a healer, they saw who lived and died. The whole build in public concept mirrors this absolutely primal trust mechanism. It is a proof of work concept. By showing your raw, unfiltered process and thoughts in your unedited struggle, you are absolutely signaling to people watching high cost, authentic competence. Evolution wired us to trust people who show their process. And we trust these people over people who show their polished claims, these gurus, so to speak. Another key pillar was social proof and what I'm going to call tribal monopoly. In a small band, every individual naturally carved out a very distinct ability and a very distinct identity, also what we would call a niche. And it was based on a certain combination of their traits and their skills and their assets and their experience. For example, you might have a tracker who's really good with the weather. They just naturally have that instinct to know the weather. Or a storyteller who passes history through. Or even a maker who makes bowstrings. In a 100-person tribe, you are automatically you. Your unique personality blended with you. Your utility was your niche. The niche of you concept that we're seeing all over YouTube and the internet is really a promise to return to this ancestral equilibrium. It's a fantasy we believe in, that you essentially don't have to contort yourself to fit into an artificial corporate category, and you simply exist and contribute your unique traits. And then, furthermore, you're valued for those. There is also historical perspective, which is really the alienation that happened to everyone in the industrial era. And I would say with corporate America. So if you look at why this trend is exploding now, we need to take a look at what history has done to human work over the past 250 years. So the ancestral era that I'm talking about was very integrated. But then came the pre-industrial era, which was essentially 99% of history. Again, we had the social structure with these small tribes that I described earlier. And the value mechanic was that high value authenticity with direct proof of work, right? You are a hunter-gatherer, a healer, a tracker, a storyteller. And again, those identity dynamics were you. Only you could be you. And then in the 18th and 20th century, in the industrial era, the social structure became one of mass production. Urbanization happened. We also started with a lot of this corporate bureaucracy. And the value mechanic there was standardization, specialized repetitive labor, and essentially becoming more efficient in everything. And the identity dynamics, deep alienation from the output. Society demanded a split identity. You were who you are at work, and you are different when you're at home. You kept your true self locked at home. And then again, you had that professional persona at work. And then we came into the modernized era, the digital creator era. And I think this started long before YouTube became what it was. You know, we had the cat videos, we had all this, we had the blogging. I think it's just that the platforms have sort of changed. We have the TikTok. I sound like an old person saying that, but we have TikTok, we have short form. But the mechanism of creator started probably when my professional career was taking off. So let's say like 1998, maybe even earlier than that. We had mommy bloggers, we had all types of stuff like that. But again, that social structure was internet platforms, global creator networks, and essentially recommendation algorithms. And the value mechanic became built in public, a niche of you, where you are just sharing your life, and content strategies. And the dynamic here became a cultural identity shift to heal the industrial alienation that happened to our society, really promising that zero cost, being different mentality by turning your full identity and everything that you are into your career. So the core takeaway from this history here should show the progression of why the modern place that we are today feels so magnetic to us. It is an absolute attempt to collapse the artificial barrier that was created by the industrial era. Essentially, we're trying to reunite ourselves with our work by turning our full identity into what we're valued for. And when we look at what happened, it really became a huge disconnection in that industrial era. With the rise of this corporate bureaucracy that I'm talking about and this corporate persona, work became deeply alienated. And frankly, this was talked about in human history. It was famously highlighted by Karl Marx. If you study a lot of philosophers like I did in my MBA, you will realize all these themes are coming through today. Workers themselves were very detached from the final product, assembling a tiny screw instead of building the entire wagon. And again, being forced to separate your true identity from your professional persona. That's exhausting, that's tiring. You essentially became a cog in the machine, entirely interchangeable. And if you left, the machine would just hire someone else. And today, because of all this, we are in a modern identity crisis. And I think AI is propagating it even further. After decades of this duality, when the internet came to be, and specifically these creator platforms where I'm talking to you today, created this immense cultural whiplash. Build in public, and now what I'm seeing today, the niche is you, represent a direct rebellion of where we've been. The promise is you no longer have to fracture yourself or your identity to make a living. But if I'm being honest, I think the part that we have to be clear about is it all feels like a fantasy. And the fantasy is built on 3 specific psychological desires that every human has. The zero marginal cost of being yourself. In traditional business environments, building a niche requires market research, product differentiation, and looking different than all your other competitors, being the person that's chosen or the product that's chosen, and adapting yourself or your product to what demand is. The niche is you. Is really a claim that by simply sharing your genuine interests in your life, your differentiation has zero cost because no one can outcompete you at being just you. But the sad reality of that, pure authenticity doesn't automatically equal market demand. The market isn't paying you for your uniqueness. It pays you for a problem that you're solving. An outcome. It pays for value solved. This fantasy is really here to tell you that just being is enough, bypassing the hard work of serving. Maintaining a false professional mask takes time and energy, an immense cognitive energy. And I would also argue financially to buy the wardrobe to look the look. Merging your personal life with your professional eliminates this tax. But the reality, in practice, turning your business into the niche being you forces people into a performative brand. And we hear this more and more from creators that try to leave the space. Instead of this whole build in public, the niche is you, freeing you, it monetizes your personal life, making it even harder to step away, making you reach to do more and more and more of the performative. And the last principle is parasocial tribal building. The promise here is that when you're building in public and you're building a niche of you, you will attract a tribe of like-minded humans, a community. We hear this all the time. Just build a community. Just talk like your best friend is sitting across from you. Just be who you are. But algorithms are not small hunter-gatherer bands. They are hyper-capitalist distribution systems. What works on an algorithm is often exaggerated, and it's exaggerated drama nonetheless. It's also extreme consistency in polished narrative arcs, which is absolutely the very opposite of low-stakes, ambient tribal belonging. So my thoughts on all this, the reason that we get caught up, the reason I'm clicking on every video that says just build a niche of you is because it's directly tapping into my ancestral DNA. We evolved to work alongside our tribe, doing things that aligned with our individual strengths, recognized and valued for who we are on the inside. And this niche is you and build in public are just absolutely irresistible because they cure centuries of corporate soul-crushing alienation. It is so captivating, and it's such a captivating vision, even if executing it in the real world means balancing the fantasy of pure authenticity with the pragmatic values of what a market actually wants. So for you, the listener of my channel, who's a lot like me and is building their own business, this is what I'm going to tell you based on a lot of years of clicking on these videos and getting pulled into this and deeply, deeply wanting one of those brands for myself. When you are in the hard trenches of building a real business with a real service and real market demand, when cash flow is tight and you're just trying to become sustainable, and it feels like pushing a boulder up a big hill, watching someone on YouTube or TikTok in a sunlit room, talking with confidence, doing Plan With Me Sundays and being in shape and having a clean house and doing everything that I want for my life, and then claiming that they built a 7-figure business can feel like a cheat code to us. It taps right into our evolution that I talked about this whole video and our desire. But the truth is, when you're watching those videos, you're looking at their distribution system and not their business model. I think what we need to do when we look at these videos is separate the show from the engine. The biggest illusion of this is the implication that being interesting equals revenue. Behind almost every single The Niche Is You creator, the ones that actually make sustainable money, which I feel like is more rare than we would think, business. And that's running in the background. They almost always sell high-ticket one-on-one consulting, like I do over on my Google Ads channel. Maybe they run an agency using cheap offshore labor. That happens more often than we'd like to think. Or they're selling a course for other people that want to become creators. So the reality is they're not monetizing themselves. They are using themselves as a top of the funnel marketing channel. And then in the background, they have a standard product or service that may or may not be doing well, so to speak. We don't know. So when we fall for this fantasy, it's not because our business is harder than theirs. It's because they're hiding the messy mechanics of what's really going on. I think it's also important that we recognize the self-selection of the algorithms. YouTube and social algorithms do not show reality. They show you statistical anomalies and actors. For every single person succeeding with The Niche Is You and Build in Public, there are at least 10,000 people like me who put out a video that they put effort and time into, or they just yapped, or they did what they did, and it will get like 20 views. And their lives look like absolute crickets. And it's because their personal values don't align with the market problem. Or because they're just not there yet. They're not as polished. They're not as articulate. They're not as something. You also have to think about the narrative arc. Content creators are incentivized to perform success long before they've achieved it. Let that sit in. And periodically we see this stuff online where someone will be outed for cheating the system or have something fake or just blatantly lying, highlighting a slowdown. Like the fact that right now my Google Ads business is in a slowdown, which is why I'm making this video. It doesn't get clicks and attention like a highly curated, I built a 7-figure brand and burned down video might get, because that is highly curated and it's victory. And it makes people want to know, why'd you burn down something so successful? I can't even be successful. Think about it. And so when you're looking at yourself and you're comparing the behind the scenes realities to their highlight reel, you are simply playing a game that you are hardwired to lose. So please, for the love of God, don't do what I always want to do and abandon a real asset, which is your business, for an aesthetic dream. I've been doing this a couple of years now. And I now know my patterns more than I ever did at the beginning. I really, really have always wanted that type of business where I'm cool enough. But building a real, true business, one with a real service, my business is built on equity and leverage. If I were to build a Niche Is You business, the minute I stop creating content, any revenue I got from that would stop. And again, we've seen creators talking about that, which is why they have to keep going over and over and become more dramatic. And they have meltdowns when they stop. My Google Ads business, my marketing business, my videos still get views that I published a year and a half ago. My blog posts still get bubbled up in AI that I published a year and a half ago because I'm talking about really in-demand services. And I'm answering questions that people have that stand the test of time. Real businesses, they are meant to exist outside of my personality. A slowdown, like what I'm have right now is a puzzle to be solved. Is it my messaging? Is it my sales pipeline? Is it the economy? Is it how I always default to teaching instead of teaching people how to think? Is it because I'm not different enough? It is a puzzle to be solved, but it's not a personal failure of my identity. And so if we take everything that I talked about today, and we still fall for this, like I do think we can inject part of what we hear into our own business. I think injecting your personal voice into your content is really, really important. In fact, there are times when I'm on the phone making Google Ads content and my mom will call and I just look at my phone and say, my mom will call. And in editing, I could cut that out, but I don't. I leave it in because that's the reality. I talk about my 3 kids. I reference the fact that I have them. I talk about how I do a lot of thinking while I'm walking or how I was thinking about a problem when I was driving. I try to bring in small aspects of me because when people hire me, they're hiring me for me. If it was just about Google Ads, man, I mean, they could hire one of the thousands and thousands of people in the world. It feels like everyone on the street corner does what I do. And so you can inject parts of you into your business. There are parts of this that I think are very, very important. And I also think you could share your personal journey in solving your business problems. I talk a lot about what I experienced on the agency. Do I go into the full story about the toxic boss? Not fully. Do I go into full story about the trauma experience? Not all the way, but I have that there in the background as part of my story. So for you listening to this video, if you're falling for this, again, like I am, give yourself some grace. Feeling hooked on a fantasy that you can build for you or build in public doesn't mean that you're gullible. If anything, it means that you're very, very human, which we should cherish in this AI world. And you're looking for a better way forward during a tough period. But please, for the love of God, and I'm giving this advice to myself, do not swap a real valuable business and a service that you can offer the world for a shiny, fragile illusion. Thank you so much for watching today. I know I don't make a ton of videos on this channel, but I did want to put this out here because I have just, frankly, been experiencing a slowdown. I've been pulled so hard for this channel. And I know a lot of it is the algorithm feeding me more and more of this. It's like it knows, but it's a corrupt algorithm. I'll just say it. But it's given me enough of what I need for now, and I'll keep using it to my advantage. And I hope you enjoyed this video today, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.